This is Thomas Holmes' 1687 map of the improved parts of Pennsylvania. It went for sale on January 5, 1687. That's actually 1688 because January and February were the last 2 months of the year back in those days. Now they aren't. So by our calendar, it would actually be January 5, 1688. Went on sale at John Thornton's shop in England and Scotland and Ireland, but I think that shop was in the Minories of London. Robert Greene had his shop on Budge Row, which I think is also in London. It has been described as the most extraordinary wall map of any British colony published in the 17th century, and both a visual and cartographic masterpiece. That comes from the Rare Map website, which likes to sell maps, so they might have been a little hyperbolic on that, but it is generally considered to be a very important map. We see that Thomas Holme does it. He's is a surveyor, as far as yet, surveyed and laid out by divisions and distinctions made by the different colors. So it's a colored map, respects the settlement by way of townships. That's what the colors are for. At the bottom of the map, we saw that there was a lot of, the map measures 5 feet wide by 3.5 feet tall. That bottom, came in 6 sheets, the map itself, and then another sheet at the bottom for this description that Penn wrote. And here's some of the description in the first paragraph. The business of this map is to show the improvements of the said proprietary and inhabitants of the said province, it being but 6 years ago when the patent was granted in spring of 1681. He goes through a lot of description, needless to say, and most of it is positive, except he does start off the second paragraph or the second little cube with the advantages of the country are divided, the backlands being generally 3 to 1 richer than those that lie by the navigable waters, by the navigable rivers. And that basically means that you don't probably want to settle by the navigable rivers, or you're going to be a lot better. You're going to be 3 times better if you go into the inland, and that's shown here. Let me go back to the beginning of the map. We've got the 3 counties are Chester County, Philadelphia County, and Bucks County. Those are the 3 counties that Holmes said he was going to do, and indeed he did. So we'll go to look at a little bit about Chester County along the river. Now, Chester County is not too much swamp down there. That goes right to the river. It is also very well populated. This is 1680. This map is 1687. So by then, almost all the land is taken up in Chester County. There are much smaller tracts here, parcels that are about 100 acres versus elsewhere in the improved section, more like 250 and 500 acre parcels. So there's not much need to get over into Chester County and expect to get any land at the river anyway. We'll notice here that the circled area is, it's Caleb Pusey there, one of the very early settlers. And right below him, it says Towns End that town is upland, which is the headquarters basically of the Duke of York's land as Penn took over. And for the first few months, upland will continue to be the headquarters of Penn's province. We see the different creeks here in Chester County, Naaman's Creek, Marcus, Chester, and Preak Creek, which is Ridley Creek, Crum Creek, and Darby, and then Mill. Mill, which is Cobb's Creek. So all of these parcels are bordering those creeks with maybe a road down the middle, like this could be, probably is a road today in Chester County. This would actually be in Delaware County here. Okay, now we'll go to towards Philadelphia. We got Philadelphia up here on the right, the city, and the Schuylkill River, and then finally Mill Creek over here, Cobb's Creek. You can see there's a lot of swamp here. This is the land that Penn would, found that would probably be not desirable, and that you would want to go inland, and that would certainly be true. Wakaka is still a section of Philadelphia. It's South Wark. It was. It is now basically South Philly, or at the border of Philadelphia, South Street. And that was an important spot for the Swedes, and that ends up where Penn is going to put his city. There was some discussion in the beginning, or some thought that it might possibly go up into the northeast, or what we call the northeast now, up on Pequescent Creek. That didn't happen. The water's really too shallow up there, and the desirability of these two rivers, the Delaware and the Schuylkill, make this the excellent spot. Though it is a lot smaller. He wanted his city to be about 10,000 acres. This is only about 2,000 acres, but still much better than going elsewhere. Here we go up into the northeast, or above the city, up to the borderline with Bucks County. And you can see again, in this case, this land here has been taken up and long before, well, not long before, but 5 or 6 years before Penn arrived, Swedes had started coming up here into this area. This is Frankfort Creek here, Pennypack Creek, which is Dublin Creek, Pequescent Creek over here. And so this land here isn't really available too much. The Swedes have it, and eventually they will let it go, but for the time being, it isn't really all that much available. As a matter of fact, this is called the Swedes line right here. Goes this dotted line that goes all the way down to Cohoxink Creek here. The Swedes line is still noticeable today. If you know the area behind the old Pathmark shopping, the Pathmark supermarket there on Frankfort Avenue at Pennypack Road, Pennypack Street, the fence behind there that divides that whole strip of stores from Pennypack Woods, that is the old Swedes line. That's this line right about here. Actually, no, right about here, up above Pennypack Creek. Down here we have Tuckernick Township, Tuckernick, and the Lenape word for wilderness or uninhabited place. They also recognize that this area was not very desirable due to the swamps called meadows sometimes, but in fact, they were just a lot of water down there. And that continued to be the case in this area between the creeks for many years. Now that's where the water department is, where the waterworks are in Tarsdale. Still very much a lowland, but it's been filled in over the years. So you've got all these Swedes down here in 1687. Notice up here that this is Thomas Holmes' land. The Surveyor General had his land up here, about 1,640 acres, called a Wellspring plantation or Wellspring tract. He then purchased that Samuel Claridge tract of another 500 acres, and he had a total of 2,140 acres, all along, well, bordering Dublin Creek, Pennypack Creek. So Holme had set himself up at the base of, will become Dublin Township, named after the creek. So he'd set himself up pretty nice here. He did live up here occasionally. He was mostly centered down in Philadelphia in the city when he was doing his surveying. He himself probably wasn't the surveyor out in the field too much. He was 60 years old when he got here. He was born in 1624. So he was somewhat over the hill. How he got his expertise at surveying, we don't really know, but well, he obviously knew what he was doing, but mostly he was just an excellent administrator. He had to rein these surveying cats in, and they were out there to make money for themselves, such as Thomas Fairman and Richard, can't remember his name, in Chester County, but Thomas Fairman was the surveyor, deputy surveyor in Philadelphia County. They were trying to make money for themselves. You'll see Fairman's name right there. He does a lot of purchasing of land for his brother, Robert, who remains in London. But he's well off, and he may have been a little irritated that he didn't get to be the Surveyor General. He had been here when Holme arrived, when Penn arrived, and basically when most of the Englishmen arrived. He came over on one of the ships that settled or docked at Burlington around 1678. So he was a surveyor, and he was probably a little ticked off that he didn't get his just deserts. So he just decided, well, he would make as much as he could. This Thomas Holme is buried here at the Holme Crispin Cemetery. It's named Holme Crispin because his daughter, Hester, married Silas Crispin. Silas, his father, William Crispin, was supposed to be, well, he was going to be one of the commissioners. Whether he was going to actually be the Surveyor General is not known. We don't find that in writing anywhere. But he died on the way over here, and Holme replaced him, or Penn replaced William Crispin with Holme, and Holme's title, as well as commissioner, was also for Surveyor General. This plot of land is right up here at the border of the top of Samuel Claridge's tract near Ashton Road. This will be Ashton Road today, the borderline of Robert Turner and Samuel Claridge there. Where did Holme live? We don't know. He probably lived in Eleanor Holme. Eleanor Holme was his daughter. He had two sons. They both died without issue. And Eleanor did have a child quite a bit later, and she didn't get too involved in the handing down of land when Holme died in 1695. This is probably where he lived, though, on Pennypack Creek. It was called Wellspring. There's plenty of springs around, and they're all well. this is going to be Susquehanna Road here. It never did develop, but he probably lived near Susquehanna Road. He's buried near Susquehanna Road. And we do not know where he was, where he lived, but one of the good guesses is that he lived near where the band shell is, off of Welsh Road and Roland Avenue. That was the Crispin settlement, the Crispin homestead. The Crispins actually lived up, Silas Crispin lived up in here beyond this map, or this section of the map. But later on, this is known as the Crispin homestead down here, right about there. So that's kind of the best guess, but we do not know where Thomas Holme lived. We certainly do know where he was buried. He was buried there in 1695, not much of a stone, just a field stone to mark where he was buried. He was a Quaker. They didn't go in for big monuments, and still don't. He was, when the trustees of Lower Dublin Academy put up a monument for him in 1863. And when they did that, in putting in the foundation for that monument, which is right here and also right there, when they were digging the grave, digging the foundation for that, they came upon a body about 6 feet tall with his teeth. It was a male with a full set of teeth. And that's about all we know about Thomas Holme. He died with a full set of teeth and he was about 6 feet tall. This is again, this is the graveyard. It's right off of Holme Avenue at about Pennypack Street, which hits Holme Avenue and then turns into Convent Street. This is the Crispin playground here, some ball fields here. It's part of Fairmount Park, and it is very well kept by Elsie Stevens, who took this wonderful photograph a few years ago, one I've always liked, showing the ball field back here. Elsie took on the responsibility. Elsie and her husband Bob and the Home Circle Civic Association have really taken on the responsibility of keeping the graveyard nice and beautiful with flowers, put up a flag pole, and we owe a lot to Elsie Stevens. Okay, so here's this is Pennsylvania in 1681. Penn got his grant March of 1681, and it was to go from the 40th parallel to the 42nd parallel. This is the 40th, this is the 42nd. And then this shouldn't be the Delaware River. Yeah, it is the Delaware River, I'm sorry. From the Delaware River over 5 degrees west. So this is about 75 west longitude. This is about 80 west longitude. Total area of Pennsylvania is 45,000 square miles, which is about 28 million acres. The part of the improved part of Pennsylvania in 1687 was only 1,800 square miles, or about 4% of that land. There was a problem, however, and that problem was that this wasn't the 40th parallel. 40th parallel, this is more like about the 39 degrees 43 minutes, which will finally be ironed out in 1763 when they lay out the Mason-Dixon line. But in the beginning, in 1687, they didn't. It was very questionable where the 40th parallel was. Obviously, Penn didn't know where it was, And I don't know that Holme really cared where it was. He just was out there trying to sort out the land, the property for people to come over and take their tracks. It was up to Penn to determine where that 40th parallel was. This was obviously important in 1632. Lord Baltimore had gotten a grant, a charter from Charles I, King Charles I, for land from Virginia to the 40th parallel. He settled pretty much on way down in the Chesapeake Bay, Chesapeake River, very close to Virginia, and never really got up into the north much. So he wasn't really worried about it, wasn't even quite aware of it, though eventually he did become aware of it and was wanting his land back. Penn, on the other hand, he wanted to make sure he had access to the Atlantic Ocean. So he wanted to have this land right in, land all the way down to Cape Henlopen here. He gets that by, here, let me go to this map here, showing a larger map of the 40th parallel. We notice it crosses about at the mouth of Frankfort Creek. So if that stays true, and Penn has to move his city up, or move his province up there, he's going to, Philadelphia's down here, he's going to lose Philadelphia, he's going to lose half of Chester County. That's not, something he wants to have happen. So in 1682, right, about a year after the grant, the initial 1681 charter, the Duke of York, who is in charge, more or less, or had been in charge, it was with his acceptance that his brother Charles II was granted Holme the Pennsylvania. He comes up with a plan, or probably with much of Penn's help and some others, to draw a circle around Newcastle, 12-mile radius circle, and from there a line down, so that Penn would have the border, the western side of Delaware Bay. The eastern side is New Jersey, which had been was a grant back in the 1670s. So these are the three lower, what are called the three lower counties. Sussex, this is Newcastle, this is Sussex, and this is Kent County. They will become Delaware, the Delaware colony. Eventually, it takes some time. They really are part of Pennsylvania for a long time. They certainly aren't going to Maryland. So eventually they do. In 1776, they finally become a state, become a colony, official enough to become a state, and are the first colony that votes for the Constitution in 1789, and so they are known as the first state. That's how they got that name. This is a larger map of and oriented in a more comfortable way, showing how accurate or inaccurate Holmes' surveyors were. It is based on, this is County Line Road here. This is Bucks County, Philadelphia County, and Chester County.
Fred, you muted yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My wife is my host. She tries to mute me a lot, but it isn't usually that easy. And she's over there hosting. Here we are, 1687. This is an overlay map on Google Earth, which allows us to see what the border lines were in 1681, and the same lines now. except that Philadelphia County is much smaller, and but we'll get into that. So this gives us some idea of how accurate Holme was in his surveying. If you lay out County Line Road, the borderline between Philadelphia County and Bucks County, if you make that a straight line, and it is a straight line, and you make that, force that to be the borderline, that works out just fine. And Poquessy Creek does pretty well too. So that works out nice, as does the borderline here with Radnor Township and Haverford Township, which exists today. That's still the borderline between Philadelphia County, which is much lower down here now, and Delaware County now, but then it was Chester County. But as you go inland, you'll notice that things just kind of start falling apart. This is not a very close estimate to the Schuylkill, although it does have bends in about the right proportion. It is just, not really getting the job done. But why would you expect that? This after 350 years with the way we can do things now. So really, in general, it's a pretty accurate survey. The Delaware is not too bad, and down here it's pretty good. This is the circle that will be around Newcastle, which might be off this map. I think it's off this map by just a little bit. So this is the way the map would and does look overlaid on today's map. This is the 40th parallel. Again, Penn is running into trouble there. Goes across, meets the Delaware at about Frankfort Creek. This kind of follows the path of Allegheny Avenue, at least to the Schuylkill. Down here, it's Allegheny Avenue. So again, we have to keep our eyes on that 40th parallel to see what is going to transpire there. Okay, we're going to go do an analysis, go back in time about 100 years and see what happens, what causes that 40th parallel to occur, or the difference in it. This is the 1590. This is the way things look around the beginning of the 17th century. This is a map of the world from circumnavigations by Francis Drake and Thomas Cavendish, who made about, I think, 4 circumnavigations, and this is the maps that they came up with. This is the section we're going to be looking at in the North Atlantic. And here we are there. And here is the 40th parallel, which comes, well, if you are a believer, this must be Philadelphia here, or it's probably more about there. At that time, 1595, 1600, we have Florida, we have New France, and that is about it in America. This is England, Spain, and this is the Netherlands here. Okay. The English want to start colonizing the New World, and Queen Elizabeth sets in order for a colony to go to Roanoke, or a colony to go to the New World, and they end up in Roanoke, which is in North Carolina on the Outer Banks. It seems to be a success, but when the leader left to get some more supplies, when he came back, they weren't there, only a mark on a tree. So even though it seemed to be a fairly good success, maybe for the first 6 months, when he got back, they were gone. So it really is a failure. In 1606, King James I grants competitive charters for land in the New World to the Virginia Company of London and to the Virginia Company of Plymouth. Virginia Company will get the 34th to 41st parallel. Virginia Company of Plymouth will get 38th to the 45th parallel. And King James is looking forward to those two companies fighting it out to, massively settle the New World. Jamestown settlement happens in May. They arrives in May of 1607, and that does succeed, barely, but it does. However, the Virginia Company of Plymouth, they tried to make a settlement in Maine, and that failed. So the Virginia Company, Virginia Company of London got one going in Jamestown, and that is really the first successful settlement in the New World, the English settlement. A lot of that was due to John Smith, Captain John Smith, who was a hyperbolic man. He loved to talk about himself and his activities, but he was also a great map maker, a great explorer. This is his map of 1612 from explorations in 1608, right after the Jamestown settlement had started. This is Virginia. This is a Susquehanna Indian, Susquehanna Native American. The Susquehanna River is right here. So this is going up into Pennsylvania. Obviously, Pennsylvania wasn't known then, but this is, somewhat an estimate of Pennsylvania in 1608. John Smith went back to England in 1609. He almost got hung. Well, he was a troublemaker, but he's probably a genius, and some geniuses are troublemakers. He got back to England and drew the map and told his stories about Pocahontas and all of that. He then went to New England, which didn't exist. The name didn't exist. Land certainly did. He went over there in 1614 and studied that and gave the name New England to New England. This map is another. Both of these maps are very important. They drew a lot of people to the New World, or got interest in going to the New World, to get over there and see what all this wonderful stuff was. Here is Plymouth. This is the town of Plymouth on his map. He gave all of these names. He didn't. These places had no names. He's the first guy there, or certainly the first guy giving them names. So the Charles River and all of that. And this is Plymouth down here, where the Pilgrims will arrive in 1622, basically following Smith's map. The map itself is in 1616, but of surveys done in 1614. They were actually intending to go further south. This is also known as Northern Virginia, but they wanted to go into a little warmer climb, but they got stuck here on the Cape. This is Cape Cod, and they got stuck here and were forced to settle here at Plymouth. And thus we have Plymouth. Back to our this map of 1595, and again the 40th parallel here. In 1609, Henry Hudson is sailing for the Dutch East India Company that started in 1602. So you have a lot of these, or a few of these companies starting and getting grants or charters from their rulers. We had the 1606 Virginia Company of London, Virginia Company of Plymouth, and in the Dutch East India Company starts in 1602. In 1609, they hire Englishman Henry Hudson to find a northeast passage to the Orient and all the wonderful spices there. This is Amsterdam right about here. This is Antwerp. What Hudson is supposed to do is come on out of here and go on over Russia and, find that route. Well, that was an impossibility. He ran into ice right away. So then he had heard that, well, there was a northwest passage that went right through here. All he had to do was look at the map here and he would see that it was clear that you just went on up there. That also was full of ice. So that was foiled. Well, he didn't want to just go back home again with all this bad news. So he's headed south to Virginia, or just to check out Virginia, see what is down there. All this is New England about here. This is Virginia down in here, though it isn't named that in 1595. He gets down to about the 40th parallel and discovers a bay down there that he can't really gain access to. He tries to with the sandy shoals keep him out, and he doesn't want to get stuck. So he kind of leaves that, but notes that he found it. He then heads back north and discovers the Hudson River. And that is going to be a much more, a bigger river, no shoals to worry about, not nearly as many. And he spends a good bit of time on that river, which he names the Hudson River. Actually, it was first named the North River. And the bay that was down here that he had found and then left will become the South River, which is the Delaware River. So this is happening in 1609. 1611, the Lord de la Warrs, who was the governor of Virginia, one of his guys is sailing up along the coast, and he discovers the bay as well, and he names it Delaware Bay, Delaware Bay. So that's how it got its name. But that guy made no effort to settle there. However, the Dutch got to thinking that they would like to settle there. The Dutch were not particularly interested in colonizing. They were interested in trade. And they were really the biggest trading country in the world at that time, and had been, and had a very well supplied navy, and their water capabilities were tremendous, much better than anyone else's. So they decide that they would like to go over there to that bay. Check that stuff out that Hudson had found in 1609. And around 1613, Christian Hendricks, Adrian Block, and Cornelius May of Cape May fame went over and to the Hudson River and the North River and to the South River, and did a lot of navigating, a lot of surveying and exploring. And this map of 1614, this is the 1614 map here. It kind of ends a little bit short here, but this 1635 map is a duplicate of it, a replica almost. You can see how this is Delaware Bay and the Delaware River, which is called here the South River, Soot River, the Netherlands. And they goes on up and makes this 90-degree bend right where it should. Well, at least it's there. It doesn't go straight, so it's noted, and that's important. Back in 1614, these guys, Hendrickson, Block, and May, give the name New Netherland. They come up with that name for this land. New Netherlands was not yet a company, but soon would be around 1624 to go over, and they have lots of money to go make more money, and so that is how New Netherland gets to be. This map here is actually a larger map. I don't know if I didn't put it up, but This is the map of Virginia, New Netherland, and New England, which is going to be up in here on this map. So at that point, 1614, really in the first decade or shortly after the first decade, first 15 years of the 17th century, all of that land is spoken for. Virginia, New Netherland, and New England, which is basically all of the North Atlantic. You do have Florida down here, but that was Spanish, and well, they would have their own trouble. So this is where we stand around 1615. This map is a 1622-25 map showing the Delaware Bay. Where here it is, right here. Delaware Bay. This is the first time we see that on a map called the Delaware Bay, Delaware Bay. Hudson River is shown on here. Virginia, Florida, New England. New Netherlands isn't shown as a name, but obviously it's there if they're showing Hudson and Delaware Bay. Well, I say obviously. They were there in 1625 for sure. They had settled on this. This is a map from about 1629, a Dutch map. This is Delaware Bay, called Godden's Bay. Samuel Gaudens is one of the proprietors, or what were the Dutch called, poltroons of Swannendale. So he had given it his name. This is the south, the Soot River, the South River, the chart of the South River. In 1629, this map is actually a 1639 map, but there is strong evidence from historians that this map was in existence in 1629, or not this particular map, but the surveys were there in 1629. There's a description here of the different Indian tribes, Native American tribes. They were Lenape Indians. So this is where the problem with the 40th parallel comes into, or where this is where the problem is solved eventually. This is Cape Henlopen here, and there will be this Swannendale settlement, which was called the Hornkill settlement as well, and that takes place in 1631. This is important for them to do this, for a settlement to happen on the west side of the Delaware Bay. The east side is going to be New Jersey, and so they're not going to worry too much about that. Penn is not worried about that. But this is very important because in 1632, right as shortly after the Swannendale settlement, which failed, they were killed by the Indians. They got the Indians drunk and then, gave them a hard time, and they were dead. So that was the end of that settlement. But it happened, and that is really important because in 1632, I'll go ahead. 1632, King Charles gives a charter to Lord Baltimore for land from Virginia to the 40th parallel. And in the wordage of that charter, he mentions, the king mentions, or his writers mention, that it is for uninhabited land that has never been settled. There's no one really remembers the settlement, but when I say no one remembers it, 50 years later, there are notes about it, and there is proof that there was a settlement there. And this is going to be used against Lord Baltimore for Penn getting land that should have been Maryland's or had been Maryland's, because this land here had been inhabited. At least that's the way the King, or James, Duke of York, and his brother Charles II and William Penn and other people, lawyers, figure it out. So this is here we are on Delaware Bay in the 1630s. Up there at the top is where we're going to find the land that we are interested in, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. Well, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia is going to be up here. And here we are with a larger piece of the map. This is Pennypack Creek. This is definitely Pennypack Creek. It's across from Remcocus Creek, and it is there today. This bend is very recognizable today. These three X's are the hen and chicken rocks, which are there today and are recognized, shown on maps throughout the 19th century and early 20th century. Over here is the Schuylkill River, Schuylkill Kill, or School Kill. School is Dutch for hidden, and that's a hidden river. If you come around the bend here, you don't really see the river. So that's how that got that name. Over here, up here, we have Scone Island, the beautiful island. This is where a 1624 settlement will happen. This will be the headquarters of New Netherlands for about a year and a half. Then they discovered and realized that this river freezes in the winter, and they couldn't get up here or couldn't get out of here. So they said, well, we're not going to do that. And right about that time, they purchased Manhattan Island up on the North River, the Hudson River, from the Lenape tribe, the Mohawks up there. So they left here and went on up there and pretty much left the Delaware River. They still had a Fort Nassau here, right about here, or right, well, around here. But they were trading posts. They were not interested in, they were interested in trading, but they weren't interested in any kind of a settlement. However, up on the Hudson River, they were, and they settled up there big time and did plenty of trading with the Native Americans up there. Okay, here is, now we jump to 1655. We're going to jump about 20 years, 15 years to the Swedes have now, as I mentioned, the Dutch weren't really interested in settling the Delaware. They were interested in trading. They weren't interested in anyone else settling it because that would interfere with their trading. But the Swedes did arrive in 1638 and settled at Newcastle, that area up in around in here. This is kind of an ugly map. Looks like intestines sort of, but it does get the job done. And it is the first map that we see. Some of the names we recognize. Pennypack Creek is named on this map. Poquessing Creek is named. The Aleskin Creek is, and that's actually here, is Frankfort Creek. Here is Schuylkill River over here called Manassas Kill, but it is the Schuylkill River. This is Rancocas Creek down here again, across from Pennypack Creek. So this is in 1655. These maps Penn is going to be aware of when he starts thinking about coming over, getting land in first in New Jersey, and then finally in Pennsylvania. So he's going to be looking at these maps and making some, it gives him some idea of where he wants to go. He wants to go near the Pennypack. He wants creeks, obviously the Schuylkill. Here, Poquessing is shown as a rather large creek compared to Pennypack. That's not the case, but it might give a future or someone who's planning to settle here an idea of where to go, and that's may have been the reason they were looking there for where to settle Philadelphia in the beginning. So this is the map of New Sweden, the Svenska River, which is the South River and the Delaware River. Okay, now there's a long, long blank spot here. It isn't very blank, really. There's lots of people dying and fighting and killing one another. The English Civil War takes place from 1642 to 1651. The Anglo-Dutch Wars take place. This is really important because this is where the king is going to get beheaded. King Charles I is going to get beheaded in 1649. His son is going to come back in 16. Well, and so the Cromwell is going to take over, and he's going to be doing different things. And in his later time there, he's going to be fighting the First Dutch War. Then the monarch comes back, the monarchy comes back, Dutch, or Charles II comes back, and he's the new king, and he gets everybody feeling good about having the king back. And he began starting wars with the Dutch because he's not getting fair treatment on the oceans with trade. Wars are, trading wars all the time. But as a result of these wars, the English, in the end, in 1674, acquire New Netherlands. Actually, in 1664, they did, after the Second Dutch War, or right before the Second Dutch War. They started the Second Dutch War by going over and taking over New Netherlands. And then the Dutch War continued, and they kept it. And then they lost it because the Dutch attacked them. But then the Dutch decided, well, no, they didn't really want it anyway. So by 1674, it is in the hands entirely of the English. And so we have the whole east coast of America is in English hands. The Dutch are gone. This is a 1673 map. Augustine Herman is a surveyor down in Virginia, very well-known surveyor. He does a map of Maryland and New Jersey, and obviously he's going to show the Delaware Bay and River. If we look at his map, we find that the 40th parallel is right here, and it basically follows this dotted line. So where does this dotted line hit the Delaware? So we can get an idea of where they think the Delaware 40th parallel is then. Well, he thinks it's way up here beyond Pennypack Creek, beyond Burlington. This Dina Host's island is Burlington Island. It is way, way up, which Lord Baltimore probably was real happy to see that, and may have actually hired Herman to go ahead and draw that line. I don't know that, so don't repeat that. We'll take that out of the video. So here we have the 40th parallel way up here. What is going on? Well, this nevertheless, it's a nice map to see where things are in 1673. We have Pennypack Creek, we have Wakaka, which is where Penn is going to end up putting his city. That is a Swedish settlement had been there and was there in 1673. The Swedes are just starting to, in the 1670s, are just starting to move on up the Delaware River. They've been pretty much down here. Wakaka was there, pretty much the northern boundary of their settlements, but they are beginning to get more numerous. And now that the Duke of York, James Duke of York, is in there, they begin kind of negotiating with him and his governors to acquire this land, and they're quite successful at it. Penn is not in the mix in 1673, so the the Duke of York and Charles I are happy to have settlers up there as long as they will obey the law, and the Swedes are law-abiding people, as we know. So let's see where we are now. This is 1678 map, Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and New England, 5 years later. This also has a 40th parallel on it, if I could find it. It's right here. That's 40 right there, if you can read it, but that line is going to run along here, and I'll go to a blow up of this map, but this is a pretty nice map. It's pretty, but it's not real accurate, though the 40th parallel is a little more accurate than the others. This will be the 40th parallel here. It's going to be running just about halfway between Upland and Newcastle. So that's not too bad. That's looking pretty good for Penn, a lot better than having it way up here. But there's some issues with this map. The Whorekill is the Schuylkill River, why they couldn't get the name right there, and they even call it the Delaware River. That doesn't work too well. Wakaka is right, it's located right. Rancocas Creek is probably located right, but we don't have much of anything else over here. Why didn't they put Pennypack Creek in there? Well, they didn't. And here's the Brandywine Creek. So this map is fairly accurate with regard to the 40th parallel, more so than others. Okay, this is actually the last map. Where are we here? Okay. This is a 1681 map, just as Penn has gotten his charter. Holme hasn't come over, Penn hasn't come over. William Markham, Penn's cousin, had come over. He was the acting governor. But Penn puts out a map, or John Thornton puts out a map for him, and that is available and available for sale in the summer of 1681. What they were basing it on is a good question, because none of their surveyors were over there yet. But as it turns out, there were a number of surveyors over here. I mentioned Thomas Fairman, Richard Noble is over here. He had laid out Salem, New Jersey, as well as Burlington, New Jersey. And this map also has some fine verbiage from the proprietor about what a wonderful place it is. And here is a blow up of that map. We're getting rid of the verbiage at any rate. And the 40th parallel is right. Oh, it's here. So, he puts it down here, whoever his map maker is, puts it down here, way down here at this is the Bay, the Delaware Bay. He puts it very kindly, puts it down at where the Delaware River enters the Atlantic Ocean. So Penn has got it made in the shade there, as long as everybody agrees that that's the 40th parallel. Of course, they don't. But this is the way things look, or the way things Penn would like them to look in 1681, right after his purchase. He was probably already, you would think he almost had this map ready to go, because it came out very quickly. But we see some interesting names that we will come upon in our second part, which will probably be in January. And then we'll talk more about the settlers and in the northeast part of the city, part of the county in particular. But we come under some interesting names. Here's Bridlington, which is Burlington. And Peter Aldrich had been one of the Dutch settlers. He has Burlington Island. Richard Noble, I mentioned before, he was one of Fenwick's. He came over with Fenwick in 1675 to settle Salem, a Quaker settlement in New Jersey. He is Penn is going to be relying on him a lot, and on his surveys that had already been done. Here's Tuckernick. This is Frankfort Creek. Very important. They're showing it here. That's in 1681. That's where Thomas Fairman is going to end up. That's going to be where Frankfurt is going to end up. When I say Fairman's going to end up there, he moves there to allow Penn to go in and live at his mansion, at Fairman's mansion, and Shakamaxon. Here's Shakamax. Gunner Rambo is one of the important Swedish settlers. Here's Wakaka, again down here, South Philly. That's where the Swedish settlement was and where the Old Swedes Church is today, and started down there and still there. Peter Koch was an interpreter. They got along very well with the Lenape. He's got land down there. Here's Peter Rambo. Peter Rambo is going to end up settling on, this might be Pennypack Creek here. He's going to be right up in here. Richard Noble is on Neshaminy Creek. Peter Rambo is going to be another important person that we'll be looking at. Here is Upland down here. Again, that was the headquarters of the Duke of York, of his southern section. New Amsterdam, rather New York, was the headquarters on the Hudson River, the northern headquarters. And Upland was on the South River. So that is it. We can take some questions. Jack, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Fred. You really went sort of back to the the earliest exploration of North America. So,
yeah. Well, got that out of the way. We don't have to do that again.
yeah, really. Yeah. So I'll read through some of these questions, and then if people want to, we can unmute some people too, and if they want to ask questions, live. So a couple of people asked if a reproduction of the Thomas Holme map is available, like for purchase.
I think we can say yes to that. I hope those people don't work for the IRS or anything, but yeah, I think we can say yes to that.
You mean we, meaning the Friends of Northeast?
Well, that maybe needs to be discussed. I don't want to go out of bounds here on that. You're the president. I'm simply the treasurer.
Yeah, I mean, it was published in 1687, so it's not in copyright. I guess we could.
It is. It's all over the internet. It isn't
right,
like we're breaking any copyrights. I'm sure we can do that.
Answered that. Yeah, you can Google the home map and probably find a copy that you can buy. However, our copy, we bought like a really high res, this color one, right? That you're using.
Yep.
We purchased like a really high res copy.
That will make a very nice print. Yep. Yeah.
So we could probably print it and sell it and mail it out. I guess a couple of people have asked about this. Dan Myers, Paul, I don't know if it's later or latter. He said this is their first meeting. He and his wife are attending, and she's a descendant of Thomas Holme, and they're asking for a high res copy of the map as well. So I think what we'll do is Fred and I will discuss this, and we may be able to make really nice prints of the copy that we have. We did spend money to get this really high res, beautiful color version of this map. You can, buy black and white copies in lots of different places, but maybe we'll send out an email about how we might want to offer that for sale.
I have made a copy of that map on a vinyl banner, a 3 foot by 2 foot vinyl banner. It is really nice. It's obviously pretty big. You might not want one that big, but it makes a very nice vinyl banner map if you want to go outside.
Well, Fred, you and I will discuss this, and maybe we can let people know
different
via
sizes.
email and Facebook, like how we might make this available.
Yeah.
We might even just send it to them, as a PDF and let them have it printed out, or we could print it out and sell it depending on what size They want it in.
Okay.
So we'll get back to everybody.
Okay, good.
Harvey said that William Crispin died on the way over.
That's correct.
You want to comment on that, Fred?
He did. William Crispin was was William Penn's father, Sir William Penn, Admiral William Penn. William Crispin they were brothers-in-law. They had married sisters, I believe. It was through marriage that they were brothers-in-law. They were not related. I think it was they married sisters. Penn was Sir William Penn was very fond of William Crispin and relied on him a lot. William Penn Jr. knew his uncle and again was very fond of him and relied on him and trusted him. And he was to be one of the commissioners. There were 3 commissioners, and William Crispin was to be one of them. When he sailed in 1681 with his son Silas Crispin, they got blown off course and ended up in Barbados. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't unusual to end up in Barbados anyway. There's a lot of trading going on down there. But he got sick, fell ill on the journey, and died. His son Silas continued on up to the province, and then acquired land, which would have been his father's land, and then married Thomas Holmes' daughter. And so Silas Crispin is a really important figure. William Crispin died and wasn't, but he was the father of Silas Crispin.
Right. Harvey, I'm not sure what you mean. I think you mistyped a word here. When did he live at Front and Arch Street? I guess he's asking, when did Thomas Holmes?
Thomas Holmes' house was there at Front and Arch. It was actually called, I think it was called Holmes Street in the very beginning. That's where he lived and did his work. That was basically his office there as well. He drew the map. He didn't draw. Maybe we should go all the way back. I don't know if I can. Let's see what happens. Okay, here it is. He drew the map. Now, this was actually engraved by a man in England, Francis Lamb, was the engraver. It was sold by John Thornton and John, I think it's John Green. But Holme drew this, these lines and these colors and everything. And these were the instructions to the engraver, and that's where he would have done the work, down there at Front and Arch. He was also going blind. As I mentioned before, he was 60 years old when he got here. Now he's 65 by the time he's doing this map in 1686. Well, actually, he was 62. He was old enough. And he was, here he is going blind. He's got all these surveyors out there ripping him off and ripping other people off and not getting their surveys in. And he was able to keep everything under control. He was a tremendous administrator, is what he was. And of course, obviously a good map maker as well. So that's where he did his work, Harvey, down at the Front and Arch.
Okay. A question was asked and then answered. When did Montgomery County come into existence? That was, somebody answered, 1784. And Montgomery County was basically created out of the western portion of Philadelphia County. Originally, the 3 counties basically went forever towards the west, the north and the west. And then other counties were carved out of those northern and western sections. And in 1784 is when Montgomery County was carved out of the northwestern part of Philadelphia counties. Maureen asked, could the differences be due to changes in the river paths? This is when you were talking about the accuracy of the county maps and
I'm sure if I get to it.
You're talking about how accurate they were as compared to like current county map. Yeah,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Why are they inaccurate?
No, she was saying, could the differences be due to changes in the river's paths?
I think that's somewhat true, but they're very close. I mean, you have this, they're not going to be perfect, but this is. I don't think the path changed up in here. These little squiggly lines didn't suddenly shift from here over to here. They just didn't. It was difficult. It was too far in. They were worried about down here where all these people are. They're not going to worry about up in here.
Right. Somebody asked what might have happened to the people of the lost colony.
They probably died. A lot of them died. Well, we know that they all died eventually, but there's lots of talk down there and shows and plays and everything about where the people of the lost colony go or where they show up or don't show up. Nothing is really known. There was a carving on the tree that said Croton or something like that, which they couldn't figure out what that meant, but it might have been an Indian tribe, and maybe that meant that they went with the Indians. They could have been starving and went off with the Indians trying to stay alive. These are all suppositions. You can if you go down to North Carolina, down to Roanoke Island, and I've been there and been to the play, you'll hear all of these wonderful stories told, but they really don't know what they're talking
about. Somebody else asked, didn't Connecticut also claim land in Pennsylvania's Wyoming Valley? They seem to think they could go anywhere.
They did. New England did. Connecticut actually claimed land on the New Haven, claimed land on the Delaware River and on the Delaware Bay. It's a man named Plowden, Albion. He got some kind of a charter from Charles, maybe Charles the First, I think it was, but it was kind of a bogus charter. There was a lot of bogus stuff going on, and the New England people didn't really have a leg to stand on, and the Dutch didn't want to listen to them, the Swedes didn't want to listen to them, and so they went back to New Haven.
Okay. I think Harvey is referring here to the 1687 Holme map. He said, how many of the original copies survive? I know there's one in the National Art Gallery and the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. They sell it.
I think there's maybe only two of this, one in Britain, in England at the British Museum. And I don't know if there's even another one. I don't know. I don't think this is the one that's downtown. I don't think.
Yeah, I think the one at HSP, Harvey, is the one of just the city, the grid pattern. The incorporated city from Vine Street to South Street, river to river. I'll let you jump in here, Harvey, if you want to. I'm trying to unmute you.
Yeah.
There you go.
I know there's the one down at the National Art Gallery. It's a part of a collection there, but I think the one at the Historical Society might be a later edition.
That's probably true. This is the first one. This is in 1687.
Right.
There were the next one was done in 1697. There weren't a whole lot of versions done, and they were much later.
But what's amazing is how detailed for that time period, how detailed it was. Now, the one problem that George Crispin and I went over, and you have to remember that this map was created to get people's attention to buy land. And in some cases, they played around with the names on these lots. And we discovered where Silas Crispin's property is on this map, they had it further out. His property extended from like the west end of Pennypack Park through now what is the farm out to what is Huntington Pike. So they played around with the names on these plots.
Yeah, it was a movable feast. They were moving around. They were trying to get names on there. Many of them are correct. Only about 50% of the people showed up anyway. So, you know, this was an investment. People stayed over in England. They just wanted to buy the land and then sell it off. So there was a lot of movement, and but the names pretty much stay the same through for 20 years, just because they don't change the map.
Yeah, one thing is the Welsh. They were very prominent, and where you get Welsh Road was built to allow them to come to the markets down there towards the river. And I don't see too much history of what happened to the Welsh settlement. We're
going to go over that in the second part. So that's going to be really the topic of conversation for the second part. So well, don't give away too much.
I got to commend you, Fred. These maps that you've shown are unbelievable. And your presentation, really remarkable.
Thank you. Any other questions, Jack?
Yeah. Gail writes, is the historic tree still across the street, Holme Avenue, from the graveyard where Thomas Holme was buried? There was a historical marker there at one point.
There is a historical marker there. I don't know about a historical tree.
Yeah, the tree, I don't know if it's still there. They had a lightning rod there, and that broke off, and it was hit by lightning. It supposedly, it's in a book from like the 1920s. It supposedly dates back to the like 1690s. People thought maybe Crispin had planted it. They don't know.
Okay, well, maybe the people down in Roanoke know where it is.
Leslie Marr Smith, I think this isn't so much a question as a statement, that the Caleb Pusey house, which you mentioned Caleb Pusey there, in Upland, built in 1683 in Upland, PA, is the second oldest English house in Pennsylvania open to the public. Pusey was to be Penn's business manager. He built a grist mill to operate for Penn, which kept washing away. Built in vernacular English yeoman style, it is the only remaining house where William Penn is known to have visited. It's open to the public. I know that's a private home. I'm pretty sure Penn, they think, was in Old Swedes Church, Fred, that you mentioned. So I don't know if she's differentiating between the only remaining house that Penn is known to have visited, because I'm pretty sure there's documentation that he visited Old Swedes Church, which was built in 1700. So that would have been during Penn's second visit. But anyway, it's the Friends of the Caleb Pusey house that have restored it and operated. I've been there. It's very interesting.
It's nice. Yeah, Caleb Pusey came over with all the material to build that mill, and Penn relied on him a lot, right on Chester Creek.
So Dan Myers says there seems to be a lot of people already living here before Penn arrived. How could the king give land to Penn when people already owned it?
Well, all of these people are not living here. These are just guys who have purchased the land. They are not living here by a long shot. There were people along the river. These are Swedes here, but they were mostly Swedes and Finns, a lot of Finns as well, and some Dutch, though the Dutch didn't really settle too much. And so Penn had to consider these the land that the Swedes had, and had to purchase it from them, and he didn't have any money. He was broke. So what he would do is offer them land 3 times as much value in land, which we already know is 3 to 1 better anyway. But So, you know, Peter Rambo, Peter Dalbo, these are Swedes. And on up, those are the people that were here. These other people that we see, all these names, these people weren't here. In 1687, a few of them had come. Certainly Caleb Pusey was here. But these people would, you know, half of them would show up, half of them didn't, and would sell. And other people, they would send over workers, send over servants. Okay.
Maureen, I'm trying to find you here to unmute you. I know you wanted to say something. Is that you? No. Oh, there you are. There's another Maureen. I was trying to. Why aren't you unmuting? Why can't I unmute you? There you go. I think you're on now, right?
Okay, I guess I am. You can never have too many Maureen's. That's all I know. I just wanted to say I've been reading of late. I get these weird fascinations, but about the lost colony. There have been a couple really interesting scholarly works about them, one of which went through a linguistics thought process on finding places where they didn't expect to find different types of words, and they did it among the native population. And the other was looking at a lot of it, believe it or not, some DNA. And there really are a lot of thoughts about what happened to the lost colony. And for the most part, it has to be assumed by both of these people that they were basically kind of assumed into other tribes. In some cases, it was a friendly thing, but some people were probably captured or even sold as slaves from one Indian tribe to another Indian tribe. So they really truly believe that there's a lot of remnants, even to this day, of their DNA. There were reports of Native Americans with blue eyes. There were reports of Native American villages that had two-story buildings in them, which would not have ordinarily been, you know, the existing Native American stock would not have been doing things like that. So there is some belief that they didn't exactly just die. Obviously, they are all dead now, but they probably had some impact that went on beyond the Croatoan thing carved into the tree, that they were really there. And the whole story of them and the poor governor who left his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, and sailed back for supplies to England was really a very fraught story that had a lot of issues with the Spanish and with Sir Walter Raleigh. And so there's a lot, it's a really deep story, probably not really well served by the summertime presentations that they make down at the Lost Colony. But I highly recommend it. In fact, if anybody wants it, I can go find my 2 or 3 books that I've read in the last year about it. Really very interesting stuff.
Cool.
East Philadelphia history, however.
Thanks, Maureen. Somebody asked, is the text of Penn's general description at the bottom of the 1687 map, is that available to read online somewhere?
Yes. Yep. I can't tell you exactly where, but if you Google Penn's description on his 1681 map, you might find it. We could, if you want to note that, we can send an email out on that. It is a general description of the province of Pennsylvania in America. Try Googling that and then put 1687 map, and I'll bet you come up with something. Yeah, I mean, I got this off the internet. Well, this is the map. I got it for a price, but that's just because it's high resolution. But I can put this up. We can put this up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Patty asks, I know that many people who purchased land never came over from England. Were they reimbursed when the land was resold?
Well, they would have sold it themselves if they, would they have said to Penn, give me my money back? They wouldn't have gotten it. they would have to send servants over, sell it to somebody. If they want their money back, they're going to have to sell it themselves. Just not, if they don't show up, they're not going to get their money back. No, I guess there are probably instances of where they made arrangements to get their money back, but Penn was broke. He wasn't giving money back. He was desperate to get more money. And that's he was desperate to get this map out because he had sold a lot of land, and he wasn't getting any more money. He had to pay about 10,000 pounds, he claimed, in gifts for the Lenape to get their land. And then he was, doing lots of other things. He was a high liver. He liked to spend money, and so he needed it. But he got rid of it pretty quickly and ended up in pauper's prison.
Right. Leslie Morris Smith, I'm going to try to unmute you. I'm not sure what you're referring to here when you say it's a museum house with the Swedes and the Finns, owner by owner. So I'm going to unmute you, and maybe you can explain what you're referring to. Yeah, go ahead.
I think you cleared it up, Jack. Thank you. I heard you talking about it being one of the places that, anyway, about it being a domicile and private domicile, and I was saying it wasn't a private domicile now.
Oh no, it's not a private now, but yeah.
And so I think I misunderstood you.
Yeah.
And
I was wondering whether you were differentiating between houses that William Penn visited versus public buildings, because I'm pretty sure he's visited the church. So
I confess I took that off a little bit off Wikipedia, because it wrote it for me and I could plop it in there. But he was my great uncle. So my great aunt, who was into history in Swarthmore, snagged one of those plates of early Delaware County, and it included the Caleb Pusey house as an early English settlement or an old house in the county. And so we always knew about it growing up, but he was just an uncle. So
yeah, I did an exhibit several years ago, and there's a weather vane that have WP for William Penn, CP for Caleb Pusey, and SC for Samuel Carpenter. They were all partners on that mill that you mentioned.
no
and
kidding.
The weather vane survived, and it's at it was in the Philadelphia History Museum, which of course closed, and those collections are now sort of in the process of being acquired by Drexel University. But that weather vane from that mill survives with their three initials on it. It's like a wrought iron thing.
Well, thank you for that.
That seems to be it. If anybody else has questions, if you want to type them in real quick. Otherwise, I didn't mean Penn get money, but if Patty, wait a minute, here's a couple of more. Patty, I'll get to yours in a minute. I just want to thank you fellows for doing this, and thanks to all the folks with the good questions. It was very enjoyable. Why, thank you, Kathleen. And then Patty is following up on her question. She said, I didn't mean did Penn get money, but if the property was to be resold, who did they buy it from if the owner could not be contacted? Fred, are you?
He had agents. Penn had agents here, and as well as in England and Wales and Ireland. And you would contact them to get in touch with Bill and see if he would give him the money back, or not money, but there were agents. There were lots of agents. It was worked out primarily through agents. I really don't know the answer to the question. I don't know an example of who or how the process of doing that. That somebody probably knows the answer to that.
I see Jim Murphy, you're here. Do you have an answer to this? I can unmute you. Let me. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Well, she was asking, Patty was asking, like, if if people bought land in Pennsylvania but didn't come over here, and then the land was subsequently sold, you know, how did the money, where did the money go? How did they get their money?
Yeah, unfortunately, that one I don't remember. I mean, I know that I know it happened, but I don't know that I ever saw a detailed note that said this is how the money transferred or who it went to. I know that Penn wanted his quit rents, but he didn't get them.
Right.
But unfortunately, I can't tell you the answer.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jim. Leslie says the agents were to collect annual rents and fees through his agents, but Penn had trouble collecting, and that's what Jim just basically said. The
Yeah.
quit rents were not coming in. Somebody asked, did Silas Crispin work for Holmes as a surveyor?
No, he didn't. He didn't. Not as a surveyor, and he didn't really. He raised Holmes' grandchildren. He was close to home, but he was living up at the other upper part of Dublin Township, so they weren't. I guess I don't really know. He didn't work. He wasn't one of the surveyors. I know that.
Okay. All right. So if anybody has final questions, type them in. Otherwise, we'll kind of wrap it up. So again, next meeting is first Wednesday of the month, always December 2nd. Adam Levine, the historian for the Philadelphia Water Department, is going to talk about one of the creeks in the Northeast that sort of got, you know, converted into a sewer, the Sandy Run, and then the Holmesburg Water Works that, you know, was sort of connected to that. And then January 6th, the first meeting in 2021, Fred's going to do part 2 of this presentation. If you want to stay in touch, you know, check us out on Facebook, you know, follow us on Facebook, or get on our email list, nephillyhistory@gmail.com. Is it? Yeah, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I keep forgetting.
Any Philly history at gmail.com.
Gmail.com. Yeah, get on our mailing list. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. It's been a crazy kind of week, and I hope there's some, you know, resolution to all this by the time we meet again. So be in touch, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.